What the fuck is good, Facebook? We are on here and we are live, and I'm happy and I'm cheesing right now because I'm sitting electronically next to one of my best friends in the fucking world, Mr. Brent Fleenor. And you guys have heard me talk about wrestling. Not like this before, though.
Man, what an honor, Jesse. Thank you so much for having me, brother. I'm honestly flattered. Did a great job with Sprout.
The honor is all mine.
Did a great job with Sprout last weekend on here. Ronnie Davis.
Sprout.
Yeah.
Yeah, old Pissant did a good job, didn't he?
Oh, wow.
We love
Jesse,
you, Ronnie.
Amazing. It's truly, no, seriously, it is amazing. Like I said, as we walk around, amongst the society of MILF ninjas with their
MILF ninjas
at the grocery store, that you and I are spending possibly what could be our last moments alive, reminiscing about the greatest thing on earth, wrestling, man. What better way?
And as we mentioned, I spent last week talking to Mr. Ronnie W.I.D.E about the very same thing, wrestling. And I recall one of the questions toward the end of his interview, someone asked him, Ronnie, how do you feel about Brent Fleenor? And so now, while it's fresh in my mind, I feel like I should just go ahead and ask you the same question. Brent Fleenor, how do you feel about Ronnie W.I.D.E Jr.?
Well, that is a two-sided coin. I witnessed, and you know this firsthand, Jesse, I witnessed Ronnie W.I.D.E Jr. actually matriculate into young manhood. When GXW, and I know we're going to talk about that subject tonight, when GXW first started running shows in what has become my hometown of Hopewell, Virginia, brother, Ronnie W.I.D.E was always there with his father, uncles, cousins, and it began to and remember, we started in 06. We ran there from 06 well into 2014. So an 11-year-old Ronnie W.I.D.E, one day as an 18-year-old kid and wanting to get into this business, and did. What do I do, Brent? Well, approach Dave. Photography. We definitely need ringside photography. We need a gopher. We need a copy boy. We need this, that, or the other. And Dave
did get in where he fit in.
Did those things swimmingly, and learned and became a sponge, Jesse, for everything wrestling. What about this, and how can I get into that, and why did you do it this way and not that? And now look, 2020, some 6 years later, and this kid is the Mid-Atlantic moneymaker and shitting the bed of what is professional wrestling. I'm sorry. But he was kind enough after doing so to at least make the bed so that you could find it as a surprise.
Make the bed after you shit in it, Ronnie. That's how he got where he is today.
Exactly what happened,
Ladies and gentlemen, I am happy to be sitting here with my guest tonight, Mr. Brent Fleenor, the voice, you were almost everything that was GXW back in the day. When we had our TV program, you were the guy that you would hear in the commercials. Wrestling fans, come out on December 4th to this cold-ass fucking county fair that you're not going to want to be at, but we got a bunch of chiseled-ass guys beating the shit out of each other. Dude, you could have fucking sold me ice in a blizzard.
Oh, Jesse, you're far too kind. But I will tell you, and we'll get to that later, when I had finally had my fill of those blistering 60-second commercial spots like that, oh my God. And I tell you, if I told you they were all one take, I'd be a liar. But when I heard that big booming voice in the GXW arena one Saturday night, I knew that was my way. If I ever decide to leave, I know that the voice of this joint will at least be in very good hands, metaphorically speaking. So, but yeah,
well, it was all right for a couple months, and then they got tired of me.
You know,
well, no, I think we just got tired of each other.
Everyone has their turn on the pole. Ron Cromartie, a man who is truly like a brother to me, he had his problems with me about 07, 08. And then he and I teamed to do the television. And I will tell you, you said everything, GXW, but Jesse, honest to God, Pharaoh, a.k.a. Ron Cromartie, the just honest to God, mad scientist, freaking genius that was GXW television. And he liked to always say, more, less is more. And boy, he couldn't have been more right when talking about our television, because so much came. The viewer, the young Jesse Daniels and others, what actually was broadcast to their screen, they will never know the trials and tribulations, the labor pains that delivered that baby. My God in heaven, in his apartment, I had 40 fucking ties at his apartment, and we would change. We would do a different week of television.
Change outfits for different promos.
During the week of Christmas vacation, I took my vacation between the week of Christmas and New Year, and December 28th, 9th, and 30th were spent in Ron Cromartie's apartment, a.k.a. the GXW studios, and we filmed what became the first Inferno episodes. My God, I just that memory just came back, and we drank probably, or he didn't. I probably drank 60 beers, the 28th and 29th. I'm sure of it. No, just it was amazing. The flag that was planted, GXW, and what it meant and still means, Jesse, to so many fans that still come up to me, man, when y'all gonna come back? And you know, now my gig with Classic,
even I still hear that shit.
Well, dude,
I'm like, dude, I didn't even work for them a year before they disbanded, you know?
Really, and I was done in 14, but you know, it was magic. It really, really was, and it still is. You know, to hold up like that during, of course, the apocalypse here now. Ron is reposting, and he probably has, according to him, a decade of material that he could.
Ron has always had impeccable timing.
Well, think about it. What better time? A captive audience. It's brilliant. And I did some voiceover for it just tonight. And he wants me to do a video. And I said, you do remember, Ron. That's why I was the voice, not the face of GXW. So anyway, but Jesse, it's great to be here. I'm telling you, what you do here and just the information that one can learn, and for the first time, man, there's gonna be some first time stuff here tonight. Probably we'd be a little bit hesitant to dispel anywhere else.
Oh, and that's one of the reasons why I'm so glad to have you, of all people, on here. Because if you'll notice from my last two shows with Ronnie and Porkchop, I take the filter and throw that motherfucker in the ground for this show. Because I've learned in my years of the different wrestling companies I've worked for and the different types of fans that I've been around, from hardcore to fucking John Cena ABCs and then your old school wrestling fans. From what I've learned, one thing that they all share in common is they all know that it's a work, but they're all bonded. Some of them, you got your old school wrestling fans, they don't want to believe it's a work. They want to believe what they're seeing. So they want what they're being shown to them to be believable, which is understandable. Right. Then you have people that are like, they know it's a work, but they want the presentation to overshadow that for them.
Well,
you understand what I mean?
No, I completely understand what you mean. And it's like, let me tell you, my grandfolks, rest their souls, went out of here believing, honest to God, they knew the jig was up, but Jerry Lawler and Bill Dundee freaking hated each other. Rest of this shit is fake. There is no doubt about it. But Bill Dundee and Jerry Lawler hate each other. And, I was so fortunate, Jesse, my grandfolks lived in the mouth of the Blue Ridge Mountain, in Appalachia, in the Blue Ridge Mountains out in Washington County. And through their television, they got, from syndication, they got Memphis Championship Wrestling from Memphis on Saturdays. And I was subject to, the guys who raised me, man, because my mother was a single mom. And on Saturdays, you'd never hear this again. At 11 years of age, Jesse, I stayed by myself. My mother couldn't afford babysitting any longer, and just basically sat me down and said, "Here's the deal." So here I am.
All right, you little fucker, you got to know how to cook.
11 years old. Yeah, dude, let me tell you, the sickest I ever got, though, was, dude, I love tomatoes, and it's a wonder because the only thing I could find to eat, like one Saturday, was a nice beefsteak tomato with chocolate frosting in the can. Dude, it's a long story, and
that sounds like a stoner snack right there.
Not then anyway, but if you have never seen puke comprised of chocolate frosting and the unfinished seedlings of a tomato, you haven't lived. But anyway,
there are some images I think I can live without, and that
no doubt about it. But when I was a kid, let me tell you something, Jesse. I was quite fortunate as a child, more so than your generation, and here's why. Because I will be 53, my birthday in August, and anybody my age. Now, look, I grew up in Danville, as I said, and at high noon on Saturday, we would have it was the test of the early warning system. That means crawl your ass under a table and prepare to be vaporized in a half an hour. The Soviets are tired of it. But we would have that, and we called that, it happened at noon on Saturday, we called that the wrestling whistle. Everyone knew to come from inside playing and go in. Wrestling was about to come on. Mid-Atlantic Championship came on at noon, followed by Worldwide Wrestling with your boy, Rich Landrum. And then all day long. I know I said that loosely, and I'm sorry, but all day long. Now we don't have that. We don't have that anymore. And I'm gonna tell you why that is, Jesse. And to mirror Jim Cornette, wrestling was never, ever, ever meant to be national. Never. The regional territories, man, were for when the Nick Goulises and the Jerry Jarretts of the world. And the Roy Shires and whomever out in San Francisco, it was because, you would have a loser leave town match when a guy had used up his usefulness to the Fed, and you would have a loser leave town so that guy could leave town and, like
gracefully,
Jim always says, how can I fucking miss you if you don't leave? How can I miss you if you never leave? So
and
that's what it was for. The guy go freshen his gimmick up, learn a pile driver, come back, things like that.
One of the best things in those older shows, I think, and you mentioned Rich Landrum, and I have a funny ass fucking story about Rich Landrum.
I know you do.
You already know. I think you were there.
I'm trying to pull it out of you.
And so basically, Rich Landrum, he was in what, AWA?
No,
or which?
He was in the NWA. He and Johnny Weaver did
NWA.
Worldwide Wrestling back in like 78 through probably 80, 81, right before Black Saturday, which is when Vince McMahon bought the Georgia Championship Wrestling time slot on TBS. Now, you don't remember that, but that happened. I remember that very well because I turned my television on and I'm like, where the F is my goddamn Gordon Soley wrestling, man? You know? Here's this
And Vince
Freddie
McMahon had bought
Miller.
it.
Well, here's Freddie Miller, the normal announcer for Georgia Championship Wrestling, and was for years, and even into the NWA days when Crockett took that slot. And Crockett got that slot because I was not the only pissed off redneck who was wondering where the hell their Gordon Soley wrestling was. But can you imagine? You have the WW then F was running that time slot on TBS, and you would see like Big John Studd, and they brought in Andre the Giant, and they had all of their guys, man, that you would normally see, like in a northern time slot, like on USA or whatever.
Right, we're in a different territory.
Listen, and it just wasn't Georgia style that we had come accustomed to. You know, tag team wrestling, feuds, storylines, angles, and stuff. And man,
it seemed more mainstream
years for me. You know, those were formative years for me because I'm going to tell you something, man. My wife of almost 25 years, Jessie, asked me, "Why are you a wrestling fan?" And all I did is I went to YouTube and I showed her the entire angle of Dusty v. Ole when Ole face flipped on Georgia Championship Wrestling because the Assassins had kept on and on with their tomfoolery and hijinkery, so to speak. And so Ole came out and helped Thunderbolt Patterson. And Thunderbolt, remember, tried to tell Dusty, hey, man, Dusty, this man's on the level. It will never be over, Ole Anderson. It will never be over. And then finally,
that's a good Dusty.
He helped. Let me tell you something, baby. I am the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, because my titties long in a bra and ain't a steroid in my body, baby. No. Anyway, I'm a huge closet Dusty fan. What can I say? The guy, dude, everything we saw, Jesse, until the late 90s was the brainchild of Virgil Runnels, a.k.a. Dusty Rhodes. Like him or not, everything we witnessed was the brainchild. No, kid, we're going to do something else with you, baby. Everything was Dusty.
An American Dream, Dusty Rhodes.
Everything.
Yep.
You know, you have one just evil, mad genius, and he was it. But when Crockett took that time slot back over, he got it for a song, I'm sure, because Ted was a big wrestling fan too, and hence that's why he got involved in WCW to begin with. But that's why we will never see wrestling again. That's why you have Alphabet Soup popping up everywhere. Us, you know,
Alphabet Soup,
FTW, everything popping up now because, and it's a shame that none of us can be the feeder organizations for him that we could have been, you know, circa 1980, because that's how talent got founded. Cable television killed it. It just killed it for me, the way that I remember it. I don't watch the new stuff as much. I have my thoughts on. I told you before we went live, the Disney Fantasia version of WrestleMania this year. God Almighty!
Hey, I want to go to some fan comments real quick. I'm just reading them off on my phone here. Bubba Hamlet, this is actually a friend of my dad's. I didn't know he knew you. Bubba Hamlet says, "What's up, Brent?"
Bubba Hamlet, the Hamlet brothers of the Well. Hope my adopted hometown, brother. Right here.
Absolutely.
It looks like Santa Claus has been arrested, is what it looks like here. I'm looking behind me.
All we need is a little fucking number thing right up under you.
Nicholas, comma, S.
Old bad Santa.
No
Mr.
doubt.
Kringle, I'm gonna need you to turn sideways here, and I'm gonna need you to take the crack pipe out your mouth too.
I have it hidden in another office right now. Thank you. No. Listen, that's great, Bubba. Hey, we have people watching. That's awesome. Doing things like this, really, it's amazing that we're doing it. I mean, you think about it like this, Jesse. I mean, literally, if they decided to do so, 1 million people could literally be watching this. It's amazing that, I mean, literally, if they chose to click in and think about it. I mean, when I was a child, to think that everyone would be walking around with at least maybe a sub movie camera in their pocket.
Yeah.
My
yeah.
God, it boggles the mind technologically where we've come. But anyway, and then that promos are so easy to do, and knocking the piss out of me down at CPW headquarters, man. Just you ask me on the other side, and I stay on the bad side of the coin with that kid because I love him. His family, is family to me, and just some of the crap that the Mid-Atlantic Moneymaker thing, and the having a belt manufactured, and the suit that I was thankfully able to, with the help of Kevin Mears and Ethan Cross, rip off of him. And my God, dude, he had enough skid marks in his drawers. I mean, it looked like he was trying to peddle bacon on the side, dog. I'm like, what?
It's funny you say that because I'm reading some more comments here. Christian Ingram says, going to the fairground was some of my highlights of my high school career. So next we also have a comment from Ronnie from the Mid-Atlantic Moneymaker, and he has a question for you.
Okay.
The Mid-Atlantic Moneymaker says, how are your daughters, Fleenor? You're going to have to explain the inside joke on that one.
One of them, well, Ronnie, he's asked me on several occasions, how's it going to feel, Fleenor, carving the Thanksgiving turkey, knowing that I'm your son-in-law? My God, that would be the most bizarro, complete ass-backward universe I could ever imagine. Me having to give the toast to my new son-in-law and him standing there knowing, oh, Jesus Christ, never mind. I don't even want to think of just.
I'm trying to think of like a smart ass. I'm trying to think of a smart ass joke for this moment.
That shit is beyond the buoy, man. I don't want to go back. I don't want to go out that deep. Not now. We don't have preservers on. Anyway.
Yeah, we don't have insurance for when Brent Fleenor turns into a worker. So yeah. I think I'm gonna ease back from asking about his children on live broadcast because that's pretty fucked. It's pretty fucked of you, Ronnie.
Thanks a lot. And keep watching. Keep that course coming, gang.
And I tell you what, why don't we? I just want to tell while we're here the Rich Landrum story to kind of give people a little. So when I first came into this business, to give anyone that doesn't know, Brent Fleenor, my buddy here, was the announcer at GXW. And I remember the first night I came in, I was doing some music for my buddy Ethan Cross, and they had invited me to the show for free because Ethan needed a manager, I think. And that was initially the idea to bring me in, was to be Ethan Cross's manager. So I get there and start talking to Dave, the boss, and he tells to me, well, why don't you be a wrestler? And of course, at that time, I didn't have the sense that you did to just straight up say, well, I have no interest in this whatsoever. I was thinking if I said no, they wouldn't want to do any more business with me.
Right.
So I'm like, fuck it. Yeah, you'll train me to be a wrestler. I'll get to beat somebody's ass on TV one day. Fuck it. Boy, was I wrong. After 3 or 4 concussions and a medical diagnosis from Dynamite Diva, she said I had an aneurysmic concussion. Yeah. And I was like, well, I think I am just better with a microphone. So eventually you got tired of the shit. you were, and I'm not gonna say the shit because that's for you to say why you left and yada yada yada. But
and I will. And it wasn't
eventually
shit necessarily. Not to interrupt you, just to fill that blank in before we go any further, because
right,
no ill will at all, bro. A decade was enough. I had enough. My children were growing up around me. They had just entered high school. Their whole lives, I had seen them prior to leaving for work one day, and I didn't recognize these people, that my kids, dude, my family. I had to stop. It was just too much, and too much of, and it was just more than announcing and the television and everything. I was so proud of the accomplishment that was made there. But dude, I had to go be a dad, and I did.
yeah,
and it was the greatest decision I ever made. And but anyway,
it was a tough one though.
But I saw that night, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here to tell you that I heard that big voice of the guy sitting, as you're looking at your screen. I guess it would be to my or to your left. That big voice and effortless, just the illumination of his voice. And I turned to my wife. I'm like, babe, this is my way out of here. And sure enough, and so then we matriculate down the river to the Rich Lantrum extravaganza. And Rich,
it's so funny.
Rich is a friend, but I understand this is pretty funny. So
I love Rich because the night I met him, and see, I didn't know who he is. The first night I met him, I had been announcing for him for, I want to say, almost a solid year.
Yeah.
And so it was like, all right, I've got the hang of this. I know what I do. I come into every show, get everybody's info, do my thing.
Yep.
Walk out to some music, get some pop. I was cool with it. And so 0 Hour, our biggest show of the year, comes along, which is our WrestleMania. And I show up to the building that day, and I'd been waiting outside for like 4 hours before anybody even showed up there to load in the fucking ring or anything. I was the first guy there. And so they tell me, hey, you're going to be sharing your you're going to be doing something during intermission, and Rich Landrum's going to be announcing tonight. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I get outside talking to Rich and everything, and he's a very cool guy, and I actually bummed a cigarette from him. Oh, yeah. And I walked outside and was like, hey, who's got a cigarette? And he goes, I got you over here. I was like, well, I didn't expect it from you. And he says, well, you don't think you get that voice like this from years of just talking shit, do you? You need whiskey and cigarettes.
That's Rich, man.
Yeah. And so, and no disrespect to his announcing talent whatsoever, because I know the guy's good at what he does, or he wouldn't have been called to do this. But I think just that particular night, he just didn't give a fuck. So we get it's like 6 matches. The card's like 6 or 7 matches, and the first 2 matches was, I think it was D Riot and Ethan Cross in a loser goes back to jail match, and then the next one was like some kind of tag team shit.
Yeah,
and I just remember that he would at the very first match when he started announcing,
right?
Well, we want to thank you for coming out tonight, weighing in from the Petersburg Correctional Facility, D Riot. And it was just so like,
yeah,
I'm there for the paycheck, like reading off the fucking card, and I'm like, and again, no disrespect to Rich Landrum.
Oh,
but
no,
I was
not
just
at all. And listen, if anybody's going to get disrespect tonight, it won't be him. Because let me tell you, major, dude, I was a mark for the guy. I mean, he was literally a host of a formative television show in my very young life. I was honored when I met him. I was like, holy crap, it's Rich Landrum. And sure enough, but I get it. And dude, we all had those nights. But
yeah. He just wasn't there, and I could tell that for him it was more just a paycheck and an appearance, but he was still trying to be social too. I think he might have just had 1 or 2 more shots of whiskey than he needed, but what happened was,
I'm not going to swear that.
He does.
You know.
He does.
That would have.
He does up till the third match.
But
and
though, my favorite announcement ever, or my favorite character to announce, no offense to anyone else, was Ethan. The original concept of him, and I still remember he had an orange jumpsuit that had the number on it, 228259, and that was it. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing first, hailing from Lower Petersburg Federal Correctional Facility, the officers who brought him here tonight tell us he weighed in at 188 pounds. Here is inmate number 228259, otherwise known as Ethan Cross. So
exactly. And when you
got a really big, I ain't do it. I ain't do it. He would, come up to the barricade. Those were some just awesome, just fun.
When you announce a character like Ethan Cross too, you usually, that's a umph kind of guy, because he's going to be big on any card that you put him on, but his match is going to speak for itself.
Oh yeah,
but see,
he is easily, and let me tell you, that's the unfair nature of this business, is that a guy like Ethan Cross, who has toiled and left pieces of himself and soul from here to Florida in rings and breweries and backyard freaking pens all up and down the eastern seaboard. But if he were 8 inches taller and 50 pounds heavier, he'd be at the very least
in WWE
a mid-level television persona, a mid-carder at WWE. There's no doubt about it. At the very least, what a talent, man. I've been blessed, Jesse, to be around so many talented guys that unfortunately 2/3 of the world will never hear of or know of. And these guys do it weekend after weekend after weekend. Mandy will, oh my God, you got to go to here and there. I said, yeah, baby, but we're not hitting. Funny story too. Steve Nugent, of the manager at.
Hold on, real quick. Let me get to the punchline of my Rich Landrum story before you get into that one. No, you're good. But so that night that with Rich was the night, honestly, that I think I knew I was meant to be an announcer. And I don't know if you were. No, you weren't at this 0 hour. We already established.
I did not come to that. I didn't attend it.
So, and what happened was we got to about the third match on the card, and he was doing kind of the monotone thing, and people were noticing, like he called money green money, and it was just getting progressively funnier with each one. So we get to the intermission, and Dave's like, "Hey, Jesse, take these shirts and go throw them out," or some shit like that. Yeah. And I go out there and do a little pop segment during intermission and throw out some shirts. And as soon as I walked back through the curtain, they were like, "Hey, do you just want to announce the rest of the show?" And I'm like, "Fuck it." And so I'm like, "Can I go smoke a cigarette first before I got to do that?" And I walk outside, and Rich is out there smoking, and he's got this big grin on his face. And I'm like, "Yeah, they just doing what they told me to do." He said, "I don't give a fuck. I still got paid. Go out there and knock them dead, kid." And that was the night that I was like, "Yeah, you're meant to fucking do this."
He did exactly. That's why I wanted you to tell it. He did exactly. Mission accomplished. He was paid prior. He didn't want to do it. I get it. You just have those nights. Luckily, I've not had those nights. Or I've
never in GXW that I've seen.
Well, no, I've had stuff swirling in my head from my shoot life, work-wise, that has been like just an absolute anvil on either shoulder. And I'm trying to, be Mr. Personality and, get to. But you know what, dude? I noticed when I announce mad. Or not angry mad, but if I announce not totally, flowers and sunshine, if there's some turmoil, if there's an underlying current of something going bad in my life, I'm better. I'm noticeably better because
you put that passion.
Exactly. you know what? That's what it is. And dude, like I said, I leave it all. I do. I'm not trying to. At first, when I came to CPW, and these guys had never. There's a whole another generation of kids now doing this, and some of the, guys you'll hear. I say 2/3 of the world never hear some of these guys. Sledge Gibson will not be one of those guys. Definitely.
Oh no. Yeah.
No,
Sledge has got a big career ahead of him.
no doubt about it. They're just and so many others at CPW that those kids are just. Leo Kirby, God, what a talent. But I see what they are and who they're trying to portray themselves to the crowd, to the fans, and then I plug into that, and I'll maybe say extra verbiage that wasn't called for or whatever. Sometimes I add my own thing, not to go into business for myself, but I was calling Sledge Gibson at once. I was like, the young iron pile, that is Sledge Gibson. And I stopped doing it just because, I don't know if he liked it or not. And I didn't ever ask him. He just, the way that kid looks, he's built like a wedge, and he's like 3% body fat, and he's everything I never would have thought of being. Well, no, in my younger days, I was cut and chiseled. But what I'm saying is, I take it. And I told Dave once, he's like, Fleenor, we're going to calm you down. We're going to do something, man. This is like 07, it's like I'm on meth, and I'm like trembling, ladies and gentlemen, way over the top, just Vegas over the top. But no one ever
fucking tweaking.
Nobody ever showed me. Nobody ever told me. And I'm like, but Dave, I'm the only one in this locker room, not being anyone else but me. I'm Brent Fleenor. That's it. That's what I got. That's what I look like one of the citizens of freaking McDonald land, Hamburg or whatever. I get it. I look like a cartoon. I get it. I understand all that. But it's my job to make these young men and women, good or bad, depending on, or worse, better or worse, depending on what side of the fence they're on. And I love it, man. I really do. Let me tell you, and you know what I mean, Jesse. You know what I mean. I was at Fort Meade, Maryland once, and the guy, I went up there, Casey wanted me to come up there, very short aside. I came up there, and this guy, Henry Harrison, I think his name is, only worked for him once. Casey had begged me to come up there, and I did. And it was like a BB in a boxcar. The ring was in a Quonset hut on Fort Meade. And there was a table there, this huge black fella. And I go in, and Mr. Harrison? Yeah. Your ring announcer. We normally get a local guy to do it. I'm like, well, I'm not local. I drove up from Hopewell. Casey told me to be here. Oh, yeah, okay. And and then same thing happened with Big Time Wrestling. The guy, RC, who, let me tell you, that's my brother in this business these days. CPW and what he has done for me and what he allows me to do. And he even said, man, I had my reservations because you're a wild man, dude. And, I didn't know if I could control that and make it work. And I'm so thankful that guy, is such a visionary. But anyway, Big Time Wrestling. So RC called me, goes, Fleenor, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm in my drawers watching Van Helsing, which I was. He goes, well, get your ass out here, man. Prince George. I said, Big Time Wrestling, you want me to do that? He goes, I ain't asking you. I'm the one telling you about it. Get your ass out of here. So I went out there, and I had, as normal, just a shirt, tie. And the guy looked at me, and he goes, in that New England accent, he goes, do you have a jacket? I'm like, no, sir. You are going to roll your sleeves down, aren't you? And I'm like, no, sir. I said, Scott, realize, or Steve, I think. I was like, realize that this was last minute, okay? RC called me out here. It's the best I got. I said, but when I take that microphone from you, you will know why he called me. And he goes, okay. And when I went out of that curtain and all I said was, Prince George, Virginia, this is big time. And when the floor shook underneath me, and you got him. You got him then. And I've been doing this
Yeah.
thing with Rocket Combat Sports too, Jess, which with Chris Rollins, the Rocket out there. I mean, real MMA, real boxing. And buddy, let me tell you, that was challenging as shit because I have to remember the participants after the match because I don't know who's going over. you know, and I have to remember, oh my God, what's his name? And I've only done it 3 times now, but let me tell you, that's a learning curve. I mean, when it was, for example, after the match, it was like, ladies and gentlemen, all 3 judges at ringside scoring the bout identically, resulting in a unanimous decision for the man fighting out of the red corner. And when I said red, you know what I mean, Jesse. I know you've been fortunate enough to feel those walls just tremble and the people and just captivating them. It's, you live for those things, those moments. And it's only happened a couple times, but, I do this because I love it. I truly love it. And
as far as like you were just talking about, like not being able to like forgetting a guy's name and having to announce him when he wins the match. For me, and this was one of my big pet peeves that if I ever get back into wrestling again, this is going to be something that I feel like if I run my company, this is how I'm going to do it. When a wrestler comes to check in and sign in to the event, and he checks in with the promoter, the very first thing, the very next 2 people he should go see are the ring announcer and the music guy.
Amen.
And if you don't have your weight and height and all that shit with the ring announcer and you don't have your fucking music with the music guy, you're lucky to walk out there to the sound of fucking crickets chirping. And that was one of the biggest issues I had.
It's your fault. Look, because like I said, when HJD and when DuPont, another brother from another mother, big ups to him and to KR Superstar, 2 guys who beat the shit out of me, and King William. It's another story for another time. It's on Facebook though. It was pretty good beat down, I must say. But and I even told these cats, I'm like, look, when we're doing commentary, I mean, if your finisher is the landslide, the electric slide, watch me glide, or whatever, you better get that information to us, or we finna make that shit up. Now, I'm telling you right now, and we have, and we have, and getting people's names wrong. Oh my God, man, those are the worst times. Persephone, what a talented gal she was. She was on that Fort Meade show,
and that's a hard name to remember too.
Well, I called her Persephone, and and let me tell you, and I called Triple Fears Kevin Mears the 7 fears of Kevin Mears once, and he never let me live it down. Dude, I had a run in with a ref. I had a run in with Eddie Diamond once. He didn't realize that I did. Pharaoh had called and had told Beth W.I.D.E he wasn't at this particular Hopewell event, and he was like, Beth, make sure that you go and get everyone's email address so that we can email correspondence, GXW here, there, everywhere kind of shit, And so she came to me. The main event is going on, okay? And this is the night that Eddie Diamond finally, I mean, what an electrifying young man. I mean, to know personally, but also to watch really grow in this business beyond, God, just with his size and everything, to grow well beyond what anybody ever would have thought. Just the dedication. But the night he became GXW world champion. Now, Beth comes up to me and says, Fleenor, as soon as the main event is over, Ron says to announce. and you better do it before everybody walks out of here, to please come to me rather than her having to go around. Well, I did that, and I knew better. The paint wasn't even dry. Eddie threw the belt at my head, and he should have hit me. I mean, but he didn't realize, and Ron never said it. Beth made that shit up. But crap like that has happened.
Crazy Beth.
Dude, stuff, and I love her. No, she didn't know. I mean, it's just she had a message. Who better to get it out? One big announcement, boom. But I should have known the damn paint on the match wasn't dry yet. And here I am. And ladies and gentlemen, Eddie, biggest accomplishment to that point and a long list of accomplishments to come for him.
And before you can even say you're a winner.
Forget about Eddie Diamond in the ring. I might as well say, piss on that. The most important thing right now, or the greatest thing, and Timmy Danger, my buddy now, he's on a national podcast and tells this story because it's true. Greatest night of Aurora we ever did. You remember Aurora downtown on Main?
Oh, yeah.
Where it is? The Russian guys own the place? Okay. So, biggest night, period. Dave comes up to me and he goes, Fleenor, Whitney Houston just died. So, I announced it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. This has been GM, on behalf of Cullen Entertainment, Afterlife, blah, 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 blah. Oh, and by the way, Whitney Houston just passed. Just a bomb. Just detonated a bomb. There's just certain things you don't do that I've done. And I had some heat with a referee over the same thing. Worked for Crab about a year ago. And Stephon Smith, I love the guy, and he was right. But he didn't realize that Brandon Green and Jason were all, Fleenor, come here. Don't forget to say this. Oh, and by the way, say this too. And Fleenor, remember the after party. And by the way, the bobbleheads are on sale, and this and that and the other. So I had a grocery list of things to announce, and people were leaving, and they were in a brewery, man, Old Ox, and they were quite ready to leave. Some of them had to be, helped to leave. and I started talking, and he was right. You don't wait till, people are out of the ring. There's etiquette, and I've broken it, and I haven't meant to, but, the promoter overrides everything.
Period. Yeah. And as far as, you just reminded me, I don't know if I've ever told you, but this is probably like my top funniest, like most biggest fuck up in my wrestling career that I will probably never live down. Okay. And it happened it was at the Chesterfield County Fairgrounds. It wasn't at the actual fair, but we were having a show at the fairgrounds. You might have been there, I think. Yeah. And Mickey James, Nick Aldis Magnus, and Jake the Snake Roberts were there. Okay. And I was announcing this night. And so basically what had happened, I was at the point in my life where I was just feeling into my position as an announcer, like just taking pride in it, and not just something I was doing because I wanted to be involved in wrestling. So Mickey James and Renee Michelle are having a match later that night. And all night I've been on fire all night. Pork Chop Johnson, ladies and gentlemen, and just, the energy, everything had been solid. So I get in there right after intermission, and I'm getting ready to announce the big match for Renee Michelle and Mickey James. Right. And nobody had told me this until this point, until I'm standing in the ring after I already fuck up. No one had told me that you didn't announce weight for women's wrestling.
Oh my God.
So here I am doing a match for Mickey James and Renee Michelle. Renee Michelle comes out. Ladies and gentlemen, weighing in at 135 pounds. Yep. Oh. Exactly. So then Mickey James goes to come out, right? And I shit you not, Brent Fleenor. This is exactly what came out of my mouth. Weighing in at 2. And I said 2. And she gets it like in front of everybody, a crowd of like 500 people. Weighing in at how much? And I said, Mickey James, ladies and gentlemen, and walked with my head hung all the way backstage.
No doubt. Oh my God.
Magnus comes up to me, and I swear to God, when this 7-foot-tall fucking Impact champion thinks he's about to rip your head off for saying that about his wife, and he goes, generally they don't do weight for women's wrestling, but it's okay. We learned something here today. And I was like, fuck yes, we did.
No doubt.
Thank you for giving me my life back.
Never for the girls.
Never, especially not for Mickey James.
Pretty good, man. God. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, dude, people, the one thing that a lot of folks have to realize is, I mentioned, and I have been so spent after an event that, I mean, I've actually wept. I mean, just, not from, being a pussy or anything, just from spent, just no more to give, and having to
mentally exhausted,
having to drive from Eastern Maryland back home. And Ronnie Dayball will remember those days, and those were learning curves, man. That's where you learn this, the drive, the business, the drive on the road. You talk about things and hash stuff out. I go back to Jim Cornette in his podcast. He talks about that all the time. How, bookings. When he was doing Smoky Mountain, a lot of this stuff, man, a lot of it was done on the road, in the car. And those days are just golden, cherished days, man, that you'll never see or hear of again. A lot of these kids are certainly, I mean, they're living that. I hats off to them. I mean, because unless the promotion is helping them with travel, I don't know how a lot of these guys are getting to gigs, man. But they do, and they find a way, because look, I said that, wrestling it was never meant to be national or international or anything like that. But the one thing that's in this business that regardless of who's in charge or who you're working for, you see it, the passion in these kids is still there, Jesse. Because they do, by God, whatever it takes to make the next show, period. And, and that part of this business, that just tradition of, eating like ramen noodles every single night, if you're that lucky, and, 5 or 6 dudes piled up in a freaking hotel or a car somewhere.
I remember many nights where I had to give Corey Bush my bed and just sleep on the fucking floor. I remember. I'm not gonna give a bunch of names out, but I remember one of my only nights sleeping in a hotel room with Corey Bush, and somebody, I'm not gonna say who, decided it would be a good day for me to try muscle relaxers for the first time that day. So they give me like 3 or 4 fucking Flexerol, and I take one of them, and I'm like, oh, this is fun. And I go announce and do the show, fucking doped up on pain pills, and then get back to the hotel, and we start doing the smoking and drinking thing. And I'm like, 1 was fine. Let me take 2 or 3 more. And before I know it, I am awake on the floor. I wake up on the floor sleeping on my dress shoes that I was announcing on. Someone had gracefully draped my sport coat over top of me. Nice. I'm still in fucking dress clothes from the show, and there is a picture in front of my face of an open condom full of mayonnaise that Corey Bush or somebody had laid on my shirt and draped up close to my mouth and taken a picture while I was passed out asleep. Dog, that's the shit that wrestling does.
Never be the first one to pass out. You're going to become an easel of infinite carnage for people. It's just don't do that.
I feel like I'm lucky that was all it was.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I could have gotten Shorty Small's nuts.
Oh Lord. Yeah. Well, I tell you, I haven't done the traveling thing to the extent of overnight and stuff like that. But I mean, a couple of those nights should have been. Mandy would drive home, but you do whatever you have to. And but that was the beauty with GXW. There toward the end of my tenure, the first time, and then I came back, for the last 10 shows. I think I did all of them, but the last 3, and you did all of those. And then it just, went into another whole direction. And then now, I don't know, UEW or not UEW, but UCW, I think, and or whatever. And I don't know what they're doing. That's how it came back. Got a phone call from both Ronnie Daybalt and from DuPont. And they were like, look, man, we're doing this big show. And for whatever reason, UCW has pulled out of this thing. And it's going to be a big mess. And we need to at least give them as best we can. Would you be willing to? And I'm like, sure. I talked to RC. Like I said, the guy was just, completely receptive. And then we did 2 shows that day. Jesse did Indian Acres Campground out in Ladysmith. My God, it was an outdoor event, which are normally a disaster because it's either going to be too cold, raining like a bitch, or just blistering hot. And it was none of those things. It was under a canopy. Awesome. But because I hadn't announced in over 3 years, my voice was gone. So we had a double header, and that second show, which was the big show at Hoops out in Ashland, I couldn't do it. I did it, but my voice, I wasn't used to doing a double smasher that day. Yeah. We had to, and I just wasn't used to it, but I could do it now. Maybe, I don't know, but I've been very fortunate, man. I've seen some of the craziest things in this business, and been very fortunate to meet some of the, like you, man, like just people that'll be lifelong connections forever, bro. Hey, man. It was just fortunate, and I'm telling you, regardless of what you believe, man, it's scripted by a higher power. Regardless of what you believe, man, things happen for a reason. It's not all just happenstance, and design needs a designer. I told my brother.
You're right.
I told my brother-in-law once. He's like, man, big atheist guy. He's like, so this is my mother died. He goes, so who won out? The Old Testament or Darwin? And I said, well, we're not talking about that stuff anymore. I said, but I will ask you, which sounds more ludicrous to you, that there is an omnipotent, omnipresent being through his or her infinite knowledge and wisdom decided to create everything you see, or for no reason at all, 2 Rice Krispies floating around in absolute nothingness for no reason at all at the exact proper time, proper trajectory, smash into each other, and now there's Shell, Walmart, and Lidl. I mean, come on.
Yeah, right.
It sounds more, really. I mean, and the nothingness they're floating in, where did that come from? And if there's
I'm going to keep this
to the universe, what's on the other side? Oh my God. But anyway,
I'm going to keep this honest with you, man. I'm not a religious person, but this is my thing. I don't believe in most organized religion because I look at them for what I see that they are as just businesses.
It's a hustle,
but
man.
to say that there's like that dude Kenneth Copeland right now that I blow the wind of God on you, COVID-19, dude. Oh my fucking Christ! I've been watching that all day, laughing my ass off because people like that they know what they're doing is bullshit, and they know that people are eating it up. That's why he can sit there in the middle of a serious prayer and sermon about getting, trying to pray away COVID-19 and crack a fucking smile on his face because he knows he's full of shit. Now, to say that there is no greater power or no greater force at work in the universe, that I believe is entirely ignorant because we don't know. We're here. We don't know. We don't know till we die. And hell, we don't even know if we figure it out when we die.
strange way of thinking about it, but I just, to me, what proof I have of this? Teeth. Hear me out, Jesse. Nature is not that good. How can nature discern that I need a different set of teeth than a puma does, or that a giraffe needs a different set of teeth than the both of us do? Nature just quite honestly isn't that smart, isn't that good, and isn't that selective. Now look, I know. Now look at the bottom of the screen now. We never knew that Fleenor guy was a friggin' moron, but I just, it's simple things like that. And to be honest, the closer I get to 60, the more I hope that there is the big playground in the sky where, I can sit at a park bench with Gordon Soley, Lance Russell, and Gorilla Monsoon, and we talk about how good the old days were. I just.
You're absolutely right.
Hey, look, if you can't aspire to that, then what is all of this for? What is it all for? It's dress rehearsal for something else, and that's just the way I see it. I know I'm an idiot, but what do I know?
Absolutely not.
Just an old boy from Danville, Virginia, by way of Bristol, Tennessee, who doesn't know a thing. Just got in this business with luck.
We're creeping up here past the hour mark real quick, and I think I'm going to go ahead and just shoot you. I've been slacking on these fan comments and questions that have been pouring in.
Because I cannot see it.
Said, I'll be perfectly honest, there would be no Mid-Atlantic moneymaker without Brent Fleenor. So thank you, Fleenor.
You're welcome, I think.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a compliment or not.
It surely
so
is.
Kevin Courtney says, I've got a question. If GXW comes back for one more show, are you coming back, and will it be in a rematch against Kevin Daniels?
That would be an absolute hell no to the latter. And you know what? One more show, why not? You know what? Let's do it one more time.
I would love to be there.
Can you imagine how that would be? I would get certainly permission from the CPW Brain Trust for sure, but my God, one more time in that little non-air conditioned CMU building, and
the
fever pitch, literally both the heat and the heat of the crowd. And man, you bet your ass I would do it one more time. Yeah, I would.
Old Glen Alden Drive, man.
Yes, sir.
Yep. Dennis Michaels says, Huggy Bear misses Big Daddy Fleenor.
Miss you back, brother. Miss you back. And I'm so glad that he is out of his current state, Huggy, with the surgery and whatever happened to him, man. Godspeed, brother.
Absolutely. And talking about that double shift of shows that you did, he says we kicked ass on both shows that day.
Oh,
so
I mean,
I'm imagining things went good.
It was, listen, it was capacity. Both shows, the campground, that was an experience, Jesse, that I have never, that was rare, because we were invited, to the campground, and the residents there, oh my God, it was just, I mean, they were riveted, and people just, I mean, they were on golf carts, they were drinking beer. It was like a family reunion, and a freaking fight broke out in the middle of it. And that was us. And it was so good, man. So good.
Fuck yeah. Absolutely, bro. Well, I just want to say, I'm creeping up here toward the end, but this has absolutely been to have you on here, bro. And
well, I hope that
I would absolutely
I didn't steal the show, Jesse. I get paid to talk.
I want to have you back. I would like to, if I had it possible, I would like to have you host this with me every fucking week, because you're just such a good talker.
Oh, well, listen, you know what? It certainly takes one to know one. And Jesse, I honestly, I mean it. I am a huge fan. You know that. I think you are, like Davol, you are one of the most innovative young minds to come down the pipe in a long time. And this may not
I'm
be
trying.
making you money right now, but it's a wonder it isn't, because more and more people will tune into this. I can assure you of that. Just a forum to do whatever the hell you want to do, man.
And one thing I will say, I will agree with Ronnie DeVault on this. You know, without Brent Fleenor, there would be no me.
Oh, well, you're far too kind, young man. I'll tell you, I just my ear picked up that beautiful big voice of yours, buddy, and
I learned everything I know from watching you, bud.
Well, listen, man, I don't know if that's good or bad, but I know one thing: you melded that into something that was better than I could ever have imagined or wanting to be. And I tell you what, it's been an honor being here, Jesse. I can tell you.
Dude, it's been an honor talking to you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any more questions for Brent Fleenor, please submit them to me, and I will see what I can do about bringing him back on here for a part 2 of this interview, since everything that me and Brent have been through over the years is just not enough to be contained within an hour.
We didn't even talk. I mean, anything. Well, we'll get to all that. And Jesse, again, brother, be well. Keep your head on a swivel. And to everybody out there, look, I know it might seem meaningless and pointless, but do what they say, and let's all meet together in a big sweaty gym one day and let the games begin.
Absolutely, brother. And with that note, I'm going to say, Brent, one more time, thank you for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for tuning in to the Finish and Move Saturday Night Wrestling podcast. I'm going to be back on here next weekend with Who Fucking Knows and talking about who fucking knows what. And folks, thank you guys for tuning in. Brent, thank you once again for being on here. It's a lovely pleasure to have you.
Love you, buddy.
Love you too, man.